let's take a look at the meeting minutes from March 5th. And if it's and do we approve?
I move we approve.
Second? Okay. Excellent.
I move we approve.
Okay. All right.
Second. We need to vote. On the.
Minutes approved.
I think
We need to what?
Favor.
We need to vote. Oh, yeah, to vote on it? I'm sorry. Okay. Everyone vote on minutes approved?
Approved. Aye.
Okay. Before we start with the meeting agenda, I wanted to ask you, you notice that we keep getting long emails from to the Arts Commission. This is from Dave. Are you been getting those? What do you think? I mean, he's well-intentioned, but now he's on a rant. I'm not sure what we should, I'm not answering him. Should we?
I don't think. Yeah, I don't get them.
You
Not
what?
everyone gets them.
Yeah, I'm getting them all the time. And have you you're getting them? What, I mean, I understand. But
I'm sorry, I don't receive these emails, so I don't know.
okay,
Yeah,
so
so-
it's from Dave Buck, and he brings up things about this last time about when Marianne did the mural, you know, on the hardware store, the Shars. But he brings up a lot of things about Webster Arts. And so, but I've been getting these emails like almost weekly.
Jan, can I pop in real quick? So Mr. Buck is on. Obviously, we don't have visitor comments, but he's welcome to be here as a member of the public. So he's on Zoom, so you know.
Good.
So I think Dave's comments, I will send the email to everyone. I didn't check his list. It's a big list, so you all have it. His comments really start from Arts Commission doesn't have a visitors comment section. Other members of our commissions do and such. So I think
Yes.
there's two things there. There's one, do you want a visitors comment section on your agenda? It's a 3-minute per person type of comment, just like at city councils and such.
Mhm.
Number two, Mr. Buck has a lot of ideas and great, some of them really great, and some of them I think are fabulous. Some of them Dave probably wants to push me a little bit as a city staff member on, so, you know.
I think that,
But my point being, however you want to deal with them, you are not obligated to respond or such as
Okay.
members of the commission. So you don't,
Mm.
you can take in, but you do not need to feel obligated to respond or
I
such.
don't
unless you
mind
choose.
responding. I did respond to him before, but I guess what I'm saying is that it would be fine for him to make the comments once. But maybe he should be on it, but he raises some good things. But as you know, all this takes time.
Mhm.
So, but I've been getting, you know, he wants us to somehow, to do something about and it's more about the music, which is good because I'm the musician in this committee here. That's how I made my living. But the thing is that, we're working on these other things right now. So I don't know, but it just seems, like now he would like us, and it's a good idea. I mean, I don't mind talking to, I think it's Frank about another mural, but it seems kind of weird that only the hardware store is open for a mural and no other place. In fact, a couple of years ago, I think we looked at a couple. Do you remember that? We looked at different places around the area, and then there were issues with certain businesses, so we weren't able to do that. So I don't think he knows that, other than, I hate to make Frank at Schnars be the only you know, okay, now we have 2 murals.
May I suggest, so if, on the second question, on point of his email, let me get you all his email so you can see the mural we're talking about. Come back next month and discuss. You do not, I want you to be clear, anybody's email to you about any issue, you're not obligated to respond to it. In fact, the commission really should. You can indicate your own personal feelings back
Mhm.
anytime you wish.
Mhm.
But the commission should really discuss if it's going to have a commission statement about something, whatever. it may
Right,
be.
and
Yeah,
Yeah.
and then I think to number one, if you want to look at visitors' comments, that's really beyond Mr. Buck, right? It's really, do you want to have an opening for the public to come and comment to you? And then finally, I'll just say, we can't stop people from sending you emails, unfortunately. We
no,
can-
and that's okay.
Now,
I
these are your
just-
personal emails, though. You do not have to receive emails.
I just want to
at
make
them.
sure that
Yeah.
I want him to know that he's being heard, but at
Right.
the same time, that we probably can't do everything that he suggests immediately.
Correct. Yeah.
And I think he probably knows that, but he gets, he goes on with it. Because the initial one was about the music part. I support that, and I know we haven't really looked so much at planning ahead other than what we're doing now about, do we want to continue like we did before with music during the summer? And then my thing is that perhaps we should try to bring in, our school district. It's like feature some of the talented, maybe students with that too, instead of only the same people doing the same thing every time. And I love the Silverman Brothers, but I'm saying we can probably mix it up again if we want to do that, but we haven't really looked at that yet this summer.
Well, I would think, I mean,
Yes.
since many of the commissioners don't really know the substance of his emails, if they're shared, as they will be maybe next meeting, we can address either a subgroup.
We could
that
address it.
could Look at some of his points and decide. whether we
Okay,
should
I
do
think
something like
if I
that.
have it still, because I do have, I printed it out.
Eric, is there a reason that we don't have a visitor comment section if all the other commissions do?
I don't, I'm going to speak to culture and practice. I don't know if you ever have had one. Maybe you have and maybe it got taken off. It is not a requirement for the boards and commissions as far as I can see in the ordinance. However, most of them do. And obviously the city council does. We run it just like city council does with 3-minute speaking,
Mhm.
3-minute speaking times for the public when they do come.
Should we add one
That's up to
so
you.
we can get ideas from all over the city?
We could,
Well, that at least address one of his concerns right
Be
there. And
careful.
he gets to hear that you are listening and that you are trying and it's, give me a month, And I think, yeah, if you do your voter
right,
like
right.
thing,
I
it'll
was
help.
gonna, I wrote him once, I'm gonna write him again and say, the same thing, that we're appreciative, but we may not be able to do anything immediately. The only thing that I could see is that when we open it up to everyone, and we want to, but then there are people that, we don't want to get deluged with tons, so I don't know how we control that.
So if you don't mind having experience with tons of public
Do mind.
comments.
Yes,
This is a public meeting, so we really don't want to control them. If people have things to express,
say it.
then let them say it. What we do is ask that they limit themselves to 3 minutes. And if we have, let's say we walk in here one day and there are 15 people waiting to speak, I would suggest that someone serve as timekeeper and we limit those to 3 minutes. You may also, though, because you need to do your business, may at some point, if you're having lots and lots of comments, say we have X amount of time for comments. That wouldn't be in violation of the ordinance or any of the state law as far as I'm concerned. I really, given the history of boards and commissions in this town, I doubt there'll be a time in which this commission will get more than a couple or a handful of public comments.
so with this, I just personally responded to him, the other one about I think it was, he wanted us to, I think I asked you that, a support, they have different people like during the summer on porch performance.
Fest.
And I said, I thought that was fine, but I don't know that much about should the whole commission answer,
So the budget might be a good time. So that would be a decision made by the whole commission, whether or not to sponsor that particular event.
Mhm.
There is a limited number, and I want to say 2 that the commission may sponsor, and that means essentially that the city is a co-sponsor of that event, so we waive fees. After those 2, really we can't waive the fees because we have so many boards and commissions doing
Yeah.
so many different things. So I think in terms of whether or not the commission sponsored an event, no, I don't believe that you should solely answer that. I mean, you can answer the email, but the decision has to be made.
Had
in
been
this
made by
group.
the commission, of
Yeah,
course.
yeah.
Basically what I had said to him, I said, I have to see, those are good ideas, but I have to bring it up and see.
To the
But-
commission, let me give you just one more piece of background there.
Yes.
So lots of background here today, which is fine. You have that ability to really that sponsoring you're talking about, what you do for Webster Arts Fair and Burr Oak. It gets the city infrastructure, barricades, no parking signs are a gift of the city to that event. I think you are an interesting commission because you have that little extra bit of money for outdoor concerts, right? And certainly Porch Fest fits in that. So there may be a financial ask for you, your decision in that power as well.
Right, right.
That other commissions, some other commissions don't have that kind of funding.
Because I don't
appropriate to
even
them.
know if in the Porch Fest, I didn't really know whether or not do the people that do the performances, are they paid or do they just, see, I didn't think they were even paid.
So if the commission would like to consider this, I would suggest that Dave be invited to inform the commission about the particulars of the event. And he can then ask for support and you all can decide
Oh, okay.
whether or not that is something that you want to do. That way, everybody's working with the same
Yes.
set of facts and information.
And that gets back to, should we add in a public comment section officially every,
You could easily do that.
some months? it
So,
may not be used?
so let me be clear about that. If you invite Dave, that does not have to be public comments and it does not have to be any limited amount of time. He can be on the agenda if invited by this group. My recommendation would be to go ahead and just put a public comment period on. I would guarantee you 9 out of 10 times, no one would
think- I
come for a
think-
public comment. It won't disrupt your meetings in any way.
I think that's. a
And you
good idea.
might get a good idea here and there.
That's right. So how do we do that?
I think you,
Just say right now you want to do it.
someone makes a motion in a second.
So is everybody okay with, that we?
If you,
add
I
that?
seconded.
Okay.
Yeah.
Let's do it. Let's just do
But we
it.
vote,
Can you
do we
restate?
then vote for the motion?
Yeah, so we're gonna vote
I
for
move
that?
that we add a public comment section at each of our meetings.
I second that
Second.
motion.
Okay, all in favor?
Aye. Discussion over how that would be structured. Would it be a 3-minute time frame for everybody within like 15 minutes for the meeting of public comments?
For
A
public
maximum.
comments?
That's perfectly permissible to have that conversation now. The way, just so you know, again,
Ask
practice at the
Laura.
city has been 3 minutes. Most of the commissions don't set the total time, but you may want to do that. You may want to say, we're not going to take more than 12 minutes or 15 minutes of conversation. So you have time in your agenda. You can
What
set
do you
both of
think,
those
Laura,
periods.
in your experience?
I would say that if I were in this commission's position, I would go ahead and use the standard practice of the council at 3 minutes per comment and not limit the time, because you can always go back if you have a very contentious issue and do that. That's not it's a decision you all have made together. It's not set in stone anywhere, limiting the
So-
time. So I would
we can do-
suggest the addition maybe of an amendment to that motion to limit speakers to 3 minutes.
Can we vote on that? Are you all okay with the 3-minute?
I think someone has to amend the motion with the
Well, you can-
I recommend amending the motion to add 3-minute time limit to the to the motion.
I second that.
Okay. All in favor? Aye. Okay,
You just need to do 2 votes because of the amendment. You guys are doing 100% Robert's rules.
okay. And so then how do we post this then on online?
Change your agendas to include the time limits and marks like that. So it'll be on the agendas.
Oh, so on the website, would
That's-
it be?
it
So
will be.
that if people wanted, that would be a form to say, oh, well, what about if they want, someone's asked, well, what about that time you did the piano fest? Can we do that? Or there might be things like that that people were. So in other words, they could email or they have. to
We
come
could
to me.
create, if you're asking on your Arts Commission website, I could create a form to receive comments as well. If that's different than the public comment in the meeting.
I think that might be good, but what does everyone think?
maybe let's start with the one and then see what happens. I don't know. I mean, I'm fine with that as well, but there's also another way for people currently to reach us. And so maybe if we start with the public comment and see what
Okay.
happens, and then we can, if we're getting a lot of feedback that they want another outlet to reach us, then we could add that.
Right. And I think if they have to come here and voice their ideas, I think that's a certain commitment that it's so easy to just write stuff on the website.
Oh, you're right, you're right. Okay, good point.
Would it be worth, though, having an area where somebody can give some background about what they intend to come and speak about, so that we have an opportunity to take a look at it and ask questions while they're here?
We certainly can. We certainly, if you want to do that, you don't need to make a motion. You can just tell me, I can put a form where people can upload things. It's not going to infiltrate your inbox. It would come to us as staff and we would shoot it out to you so that what we get, if you want to do that. That said, folks, I mean, most folks that come to do the public comment have figured out how to make 3 minutes to, here's my idea, or then to hand out things after they've spoken. So.
The other thing is I would say that if we do get someone who has a really solid idea and a lot of interesting things, but we want more context, we could invite them back to a meeting as a guest, right, Laura, to extrapolate on their idea and to ask them some questions. So it could just be that 3 minutes is a good window to see, do we want to pursue something further?
Madam Chair, we need to take one more vote on the final motion as amended on the 3-minute public comment. When the discussion's done, we just need one more vote.
One more
You
vote
Voted on the amendment. Now you need to vote on the main.
on
motion
the
as amended.
amendment.
Yes.
You've already done that, so now it would just be all those in favor of the amended motion.
All those in favor of the amended motion.
Aye.
Hi.
Okay.
Boy, we're sticklers.
Uh-huh.
Makes my minutes a whole heck of a lot easier, so.
Okay. So on the agenda,
We do not have a new member to welcome. I apologize. I forgot.
Pardon?
We do not have a new member, so we can move right to number 4A. Yeah.
yes, no. We approved the minutes and now we're going on to the updates on the public art plan.
I will turn it to Alex. I pull this up for you.
Yeah, pull it up, please.
Which one am I pulling up? What do you want?
It'll
me
be
to-
right there in front of
Yes.
Which one do you want up, Alex? The plan, this one?
Yeah, I want that one up.
You can literally drive.
Yeah,
Pull it over to your way. There you go.
I actually want the other one, the one with the map.
Map
Oh,
right
that's,
behind
it's right here. Okay, great. So what I'm planning to do is not only continue to collect the commission's comments and things like that, but just to recap kind of what we discussed. I'm continuing to think about it in terms of these 3 items of gateways, nodes, and paths. They're really already defined in here, so I'm going to just pull this apart a little bit, rewrite it, restructure it. In terms of this public art criteria, personally, I don't think I should dig too much into the details or weeds of this. And I also don't think that we should focus on the pre-existing sites of anything. I think we should focus on the future of the plan and how that kind of integrates into the larger master plan. All of this kind of, I'm going to call it fluff in terms of what can be done and things like that. Again, I don't think those parameters need to be set. I think right now, all we're doing is really providing a template of, I guess, the visionary architecture of, again, gateways, nodes, and paths. And then we could integrate things like this map into it and define these different sites. But at the same time, I would prefer that we don't get overly specific, because I would like the master plan to actually help define or redefine some of these potential sites that are on this old kind of map and plan. I think the map is good and it serves as kind of a good tool, but I'm more interested in kind of what the master plan of the city's map is going to be and all the various different new developments, codes, policies, and et cetera that integrates into that. So again, I think the architecture should be really these three items and definitions. Additionally, another document which we had also started kind of working on had to do with really thinking about how this commission was organized and defined, right? So kind of putting into that document as well, things that maybe we already know, but that actually it might just be good reiterating why the commission was in a sense originated and formed, right? And it has to do with the aspects of really public art and public art projects, and then renaming those code of ordinances, which has things like function of arts commission, title of works of art, display. I mean, all of these ordinances, which are pre-baked into how we are supposed to function. So kind of redefining those things in that. And then also maybe some of the aspects of kind of how we've talked about city of the arts, right? So that overarching structure of kind of city of the arts, and maybe that is in a sense, instead of art ways, maybe that is in a sense our title banner, right? City of the Arts Public Art Master Plan, which integrates into the larger city plan under the three themes of what I call, or what we call the paths, nodes, and gateways. And I believe I saw somewhere else that like maybe nodes was also inclusive of parks. I think parks needs to definitely be in there because these are the large public spaces. So then also defining what departments this would be under, right? So it would be public works. So anything that's like right of way streets, but then also director of parks. So that's kind of what I was thinking, but let's discuss it a little bit if there's disagreement on kind of taking it in that direction. And again, the way that I'm thinking about this is not an external document, but it's an internal document that would integrate into the city's master planning process. So I'm not even thinking external. I'm not thinking about like it talking to the public. I'm not thinking about it talking, you know, like it can be informed and have community engagement and all these other things. But I would like that to be inserted into, you know, what master planning is doing, and have master planning think about how that can be a document that can have more community engagement. And also remember, it's a living document. So it's not it's not static.
I wanted to understand your sort of looking to the future and not integrating the past. I mean, to me, it's vital though that we look what's done and what exists. So I'm not sure I quite understand what you mean by that, but.
I think as a first draft, because I don't understand all the past of it, I don't have the ability to put this into the first draft, right? So I can't speak to it. So if the commission and commissioners want to provide me with, you know, all of those details of what has been in a sense done in the past, or we make this the attachment that Beth, you've already created, which outlines all the public art in the city, you know, maybe it's as simple as that. I'm also trying to think about simplicity.
Right. I guess I'm thinking, for example, we have the park, the sculpture garden, but it is unfinished. So, you know, to me, that's a past thing that might take priority as we look at what we're planning on doing, those kinds of things. So to think of what we're doing. And also, I do think that, you know, to look where we have placed sculpture and what might be the priorities. So again, to me, that past informs how we're going to.
If you were to, in a sense, name 3 different priority projects of public art, I know we kind of touched upon this in the last meeting, but what would those be? So the unfinished sculpture garden might be one, but what's like a second and a third one if you identified sites?
Well, one, I don't know the status now, one that the commission, being the person who's been here a long time, I can speak to, it was Crossroads. I mean, there was a huge amount of discussion back and forth with the business owners. So that, I know that then there's maybe, Laura, you can speak to this, wasn't there a county plan or something? So that might be something that we don't want to mess with. And then also, I think on Lockwood, at the point where it splits, that was also very much identified as a priority and coming in along Kirkham to the city. So those were 4 areas that, excuse me, have already garnered a bit of attention and thought. So whether.
What
they're-
is the Crossroads? Can we clarify what that
Elm and Big Bend.
is? Is that known to everybody but me?
It's becoming known, maybe is the best way
Okay.
to say it.
Yeah.
And there is a project on the county schedule, on our county, to do streetscape there, as well as some walkability and other kinds of improvements, including improving the intersection at Elm and Big Bend for safety purposes for the kids walking to Hickson. I've seen the plans, but I don't remember, and I'm looking at Eric because he has worked with the Crossroads Business District, who has done a lot of the work with the county. Nothing jumps out at me as what might be a good place. I'm not sure what happens to that southwest corner, because that's where the original discussion of placement was.
Right.
The southwest corner will generally remain the same. The southwest corner of the intersection of Elm and Crossroads will generally remain the same. It's the
Across from the bagel.
across
Big
across
Bend
from
for the
Bagel
bagels.
Union
Got it.
on the west side of the street. They are going to shave about a foot off of the city property there in order to make the sidewalks ADA accessible. You're going to see some bump outs. So those are when you build those pieces of concrete out into the parking lane to help force turns to go, sharper and slower and such. I would not say those are good areas of public art because they're right there, obviously car traffic. There will be one spot, however, that is redeveloping right where the Art of Entertaining parking lot connects to the big red brick building on that side of the road. There has to be a bump out and rework of the sewer inlet. And Jeff Sander has indicated he's willing to give up a parking space to create more of a pad potential for some public art mid-block. And then we haven't figured this out yet, but there will be, with the Art of Entertaining, how to work out their westerly boundary onto the roadway. So there may be some very interesting vertical signage, public art type of installations that can go. It's a very limited 18-inch space, but you have all the height in the world there to work on some of those things. So there's potentials and things like that, but there's not a great, here's 12 square feet absolutely open in yours right now.
But it does sound to me from what you said, the original site is relatively intact, the original site that was discussed.
Right.
One of the things that I fear and that I'll address here is that, this is a quite extensive document, but it has already been lost and not utilized. So what I don't want to do is spend more time spinning wheels and writing documents and comprehensive plans to be lost in time. So I'd really like it to be kind of a draft that takes and pulls these things together, that it's a living document, but then it kind of kicks to some version of city master planning, and it starts to get in front of other folks and other commissions and other consultants. Then we can have those discussions where they bring us in, we have more community engagement, that it becomes part of the larger process. I don't want us to do it in the silo and create a lost document. That's one of my greatest fears is something like this that has such extensive it talks about guidelines and gifts of works and things like that, which is really great. And we can repurpose that and bring that in later. But I would prefer to have a fairly digestible document with addendums attached to it. Something like, here's the inventory of the public art. You could even attach this as an addendum that says, like, here is a past kind of document if we wanted to dig into the weeds of it, that shows, circa whenever it's from 2010 or what have you. That's kind of my greatest fear. I don't know if Mayor or Eric can speak to that in any more detail.
I'm listening. I truly am. I'm trying to find, I'm going to drive here real quick.
Yeah, go ahead.
So,
Yeah, go ahead.
But so however you want to do this, I think an internal document's fine. Ultimately, when you adopt something and if it's part of the comprehensive plan, measuring and tracking performance is going to be important on that document, right? So I'm just quickly pulling up on here so you can see, this is our first strategic plan. This is through Invisio, but we will start to generate these kinds of reports, both monthly and quarterly, both to the public and to the internal network about how we're doing. So when we look at things, so let's just say one of yours was, well, here's a great example, like a 5-year structural deficit chart. If one of your tactics was to implement the Crossroads Public Art Plan, we'll be able to go through and mark progress staff and the commission is making towards achieving that and provide both to you and also to the public transparency and accountability to whether the plan's being adopted. When it's ready to be a plan that is on the public side. Now, this also can be an internal plan. I mean, like you said, and really talk to accountability in that regard. So, so I just wanted to highlight that. Whether it's internal or external, it's up to you, but obviously accountability will, if we say it's a plan with something we should be doing, we need to put our back into then tracking down, making sure we're achieving.
I'd like to also add in any type of draft, the allocation of resources, whatever that means, that it integrates into all of these larger elements and understandings of art as an economic driver, right? That forget about this fiscal year's budget, but what about the next and what about 10 years from now? That arts is integral to making these things possible, right? That all those things in the other master plan, it can't happen without arts and culture. And whatever that means, that, I'm speaking about terms that I don't know. It's like, I know that like every single building that's built like receives a historic credit or an art credit or something like that. How do you integrate kind of arts and culture into the larger framework that is the city's master plan?
And one discussion we've had before too, and it's not really an Arts Commission purview, but new construction, public construction, that they might devote X percentage of their construction costs to the allocation to arts, not to us, but to something on that property.
Is that something that's already pre-existing in the city of Webster Groves? I mean, there's something like the tree ordinance, right? That like every tree that you take down, you got to put more trees up. Uh-huh.
I think it's a recommendation that talk about, formalize it, talk, but it is not become an enforceable ordinance.
There's also other models, right? So it's like, look, I would love 1% for the art, but a public art fund or something like that, right? So let's say a building is built and a percentage goes to that particular fund to define those different priorities that we've just defined, right? So the unfinished sculpture garden, the Crossroads, the Lockwood split, the Kirkham, that a percentage goes to that particular fund. So not particularly, Clayton has it where it's like it has to go on that particular site. I like the idea that we define the priorities and then it goes into a particular fund, which then helps that particular project flourish. Or the new park at Oxford and Big Bend, right? So if there is a fund that even supplements it of even $1,000 or $10,000, then you're not always chasing down the funds, right? That funds and resources are funneling to that particular project to implement it and to accomplish it, rather than a piecemeal, here's the development here, but it's behind 12 trees and 12 buildings that nobody sees or engages or cares about, right?
Yeah, I agree with Alex that it needs to be. I mean, I'll be honest, I was surprised you guys didn't have this done this is my second meeting, so I'll shake some waves. I was surprised you guys didn't have your logo. You guys were debating that last time. And then this document is what, 13 years old. It feels like, I honestly thought I'd be coming to a spot where we already had these things and we would just be working on making Webster build. But we got to get through this document. I think setting the outline for what we are in the future is really important now. So we're not wasting our wheels. as we get in the future. So I'm with Alex. It needs to be, the document's too big. It's a wonderful document. It's got a lot of information. I didn't like all the fonts and pictures, but that was just hearsay, or nitty gritty. But it needs to be dropped down. It needs to be put in the master plan so we know as we go forward. Like they were saying in Clayton, so much percentage. I agree with you that it shouldn't be site specific. I've seen where that really ruins the spot because I've got to spend this much money. I've got to put this art there and they want to be involved and it's a piece of crap. But if you can do it in a community or around the park, it's much better. So I agree with Alex that it needs to be a document that's really put into the master plan.
I'll continue to just compile some of this. So, what I want to do, what I think the easiest way to do is actually editing is really to be the editor of this type of thing to try to make it digestible. So my first draft is to try to get it to like a 2-page document. No joke. Because I think the more digestible it is, it's not going to be or feel like it's a burden, that it's a starting point to really expand, because I do think community engagement is important and I don't want you to start from scratch, but if it's too comprehensive like this, I mean, in a lot of ways, this becomes guidelines for how we might operate, right? And I don't think we're talking about that. I think we're talking about even a larger vision and architecture about how the city should operate. And that needs to have a little bit more simplistic bones to it. So it's understood that what the work we're doing is.
Well, question I have is, I mean, we've got some really wonderful sites already identified here, but I think at last meeting, we we're talking about, well, do we need to think about other areas, for instance, south of 44 at the Watson and Elm? Are there some traffic? I mean, do we want to put public art where maybe something taller that can be seen by a lot of people driving by? Are we looking at traffic patterns, or are we looking at walking patterns? I mean, what do we?
I'd like the city to define a lot of those sites, to be honest with you, because I think we could talk about it and define it all day long, but we do not know the 10-year plan of the city or what type of developments or buildings or residentials or policies that are going in place. So if the city starts to help define some of those sites, then they could also back it with resources, right? So saying that we are going to put, we're going to put a Costco in and we need blah, 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 blah. And we need to make sure that people understand that this is the gateway to the Webster and blah, 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 blah. It's like, we need to have the city to help define that so we can, help build it and do it.
And in this particular case, this means you're a step ahead of the comprehensive planning process, which is designed to do exactly that, which will kick off, I think, next month will be our first, and that is scheduled to be a year long. So on the one hand, I think this is an incredibly valuable discussion, and I think whatever you all come up with is going to be great. The question to me is, do you want to wait a little while so the comprehensive planning process can get underway, and then have the kind of information that you really want? We don't have that now, and we don't have a plan for any of that at this point. And I think that's part of what this document was trying to do, is fill a void that existed in the city planning process. And so, we're now, this is, one piece of that puzzle. Let's do the whole thing and then, color in what else needs to be done detail-wise.
And Madam Mayor, if I may ask, I think there's the opposite of that as well, is that you're also wanting to make sure your values of public art are included in the planning process, right?
Yeah.
That the comprehensive planners aren't losing sight of where are the spots that, if we're going to totally re-infill a block, how is public art integrated into that and such, right? So, I mean, I think there's, I don't want to call it chicken and egg, but there's a bit of, yes, this work is done right now, right? To really communicate to that process, this is important and a value of the city, and that's on staff as well, right? And the leadership, but also from you, but then also, what are you getting back out of that? Because that's part of community engagement. I mean, as the mayor knows, comprehensive planning, they're going to talk about what does the block around Bristol School look like in 50 years, right? I mean, where do we go next if people say, I want to tear houses down and things like that? That's part of that process in that world.
I do think that the work that Alex volunteered to do is valuable at this stage and is something that, like, to present on the front end to the planning commission is totally fine, good, as, you know, like our 2-page summary of what we think our values are or priorities are right now, that we're looking forward to continued discussion and adjustments, and then also see addendums for the historical documents, because possibly they'll see something of value that we're skipping over if they go through and review some of that stuff. I know that I've taken a few pictures of different entry points into Webster Groves that seem to be like specifically Watson and Old Watson, where there's a bus station right there and big grassy knoll. And that, you know, that's my entry and exit point for Webster Groves all the time. And that could be an improved transportation hub with quality public art if it's appropriate within the master plan and how that land needs to be adjusted and utilized for utilities for those neighborhoods, et cetera. Just as a single example. So yeah, so my personal goal is to finally really truly get you my comments by, I think I looked at my calendar before the 19th of March.
Can I add one thing before we go, Alex? To the process here, the members of the comprehensive plan team will visit this border commission. So in terms of, you know, condensing a document, that may be a good way for you all to get yourselves prepared for that visit so that you have a clear message to them about what you believe should be a part of the comprehensive plan when it comes to public art.
Just one last thing as I'm looking at this particular thing that's in front of us here as it pertains to guidelines, you know, I think speaking about the different partnerships, we don't know what the partnerships are yet. Whether it's a transportation partner, whether it's a development partner, and that's what we could start to tie in together as we understand kind of these various different sites. But what I would also say too is kind of looking at these guidelines. I mean, more or less what this is saying is what's a loan and what's a new commission? Because that's a big question as well, is that, okay, well, I'm going to get a loan from Lawmeyer Sculpture Park and I've identified a particular site, or is this a new commission, which requires a whole other set of who is paying for it is also in here too, right? So like if the artwork is purchased by the city, hopefully it's a public-private partnership, but you know, how you go about developing those partnerships or applying for a particular loan, it's like all the stakeholders have to be on board to make sure that we are going to implement this correctly. Otherwise, we're all just spinning our own wheels. I think that's all I have. I'll continue to compile, but send me your comments and thoughts, and I'll start actually piecing this together. And I will have an actual draft by the May meeting, which I can send to Eric and spread around and look at it. So just keep sending stuff, you know, please send me the historical documents too, Beth. I'm going to pull, you know, the inventory list, but just kind of assume that I don't know a lot of that stuff. So please load me up with information as you think about it.
Banners. So the mayor and I need to make a decision here. So we are here to ask for your best consensus as to background style. And if you want us to continue, we watched the YouTube again and we sort of took from our last meeting that city branding language, you know, or a text and font should be used. And do you have a best preference on style in terms of layout and colors and things like that? I realize that getting to absolute consensus may be real tough. But we need, the folks are chomping at the bit, so they need to get a final proof ready and get out there and on the street and sell so we can, have some banners put up this year. So I put this on the screen again and I turn it back to you all to try to take in your thoughts, the mayor and I, so that we can have some good understanding. And the mayor's probably like, stop saying my name in the middle of this. So. So Rick. Yeah, yeah. I want to be clear, Dr. Peoples and I have to fundamentally approve a design to go up and such, and we do want your opinion. We really do value it. I don't want to just make a snap decision, but we're at that point. We need to move forward, so. So ultimately, we need to find one. We got to find one, so. Yeah, so these are 6 presentations, but if there's one that stands out, like if you really like number 6 style and the color, but you want a different font, things like that, that's what I'm looking for. We did clarify on the sponsor section. They'll put up their logo. That's what they suggest to folks. So it's very easy and recognizable. However, if a company really wants to load it up with text, they're going to put the text in. I mean, if whoever's paying for the thing really wants to get granular and put all their text in there, they're going to do that. So just so you know. Absolutely. I will drive wherever you want me to go. Big.
Maybe the greening a little bit more to like, I feel like our Webster is green, maybe a little, maybe it's just the monitor, but maybe it's the same thing.
So it's the color there. I mean, to me, I want to be able to read Webster Groves, and most of them I can't. On the first 2 I can. So to me, that's essential to the design, but maybe others aren't quite.
Well, I just sort of feel like if you're in what you might, for, like you're used to seeing the banners, right? The Webster Rose isn't necessarily as, kind of that you're here, but I see what you're saying.
Well, I spend a lot of time on complaining about the graphic design on public thing. When you have to spend so much time trying to figure out what it reads, it's no good. It's not. So you either have it big enough or you don't have it, to me.
I think at the last meeting, there was some discussion about the City of the Arts being the original logo that we had already had or had established. I mean, it's obviously on a different line structure, but I don't know what's possible with that, Eric, or if that is possible to integrate City of the Arts with the pre-existing logo that's been, yeah, there it is. That's been, obviously, it's on a different line structure, right? So you don't have to reinvent the wheel, but you still maintain that graphic, I guess, in some way.
But I think we've added a third element.
Yeah.
So that means that each of the thirds are much smaller, and that's the problem. I love that logo as well, but if you reduce it, I'm worried that it's gonna look like a jumble or, again, illegible.
John Ahorn designed it, correct?
He did.
Yes.
Would-
Jayden.
I know you have to make a quick decision, but would he be willing to take a look at adapting it so that it fills side to side and is legible within whatever space we think we can give it? I mean, it would have to obviously be smaller because we've got the sponsor portion. But could he rework it, perhaps pulling make that smaller so that city, I mean, however he thinks it could be legible within the space allocated to the type?
Is that something we can do with the company, or do they need?
No, that's fine. I think we can ask. I mean, they have gotten a copy of this, so they've seen our previous banner. They obviously have typefaces they use all the time and such. So I think I don't know that that's I'm not sure that's not a typeface. That's a independently designed, but they could probably set up the files and see if they could do that. I do think the point is well taken, though. I mean, so if you want Webster Groves to be anywhere near that big,
Mm.
and City of the Arts to be well visible, your banner, I mean, on this banner right here, that's about the size of the sponsor right there.
Right. Is there any possibility that the banner can simply be elongated? In other words, we're adding a third unit, keeping those proportions and then adding the field for the sponsor?
I think we could look at a larger banner. I think you're going to get into the tree cover issues.
Mhm.
Most of our banners are small because we have, in many of the places where there are banners, a significant tree cover that forces the use of higher
Right.
hangings down. Now, some of them don't have that. Murdoch Bridge doesn't have that issue, but
Mhm.
some do.
Mhm.
I mean, if you're going with pre-existing logo and you have the going after of, I mean, you're looking at number 6, I think is what it is. And then, I mean, I would recommend that you just take the background of that banner and just make it black, which is similar to, you know, the City of the Arts original banner.
Well, it might be a nice idea to have John Ahern if he's willing to, are any of us graphic designers here? I mean, graphic designers, just to have him as a graphic designer who did our the city. Yeah, just give a look at it and he might have, I think that's a great suggestion.
And whatever we do, I think single color background, not knowing what somebody might choose to put in their spot would be critical
Mm.
to make
Yeah.
things legible.
Because to your point, some of these are going to be probably busy and the simpler we make the background, I think it makes it.
Yeah, and he can look at these, just go, okay, how should we work it?
Mhm.
Like,
So if that is your consensus that you would like John to take a look, I'm not sure the timeline allows for us to have him take a look and then come back to the next meeting
Uh-huh.
and talk about it again. So that is, I just wanted to make sure you had that piece of information as you're discussing that.
To give you a real sense of the timeline, the company is like, if we don't have a week here, we may cancel the contract and not have this
Mhm.
program. So so I don't want to put that pressure on you all, and I understand that we're asking for some help here and understanding your preferences, but also we're at design and go phase. So
Mhm. Mhm.
I would recommend that we, if we can give this, the original to the company, and if the company can adjust it so that of and the are on the same line and it fits within, I guess, basically like style banner number 6 with a black background, I would vote on that. Contingent that we can't get the original art, then I would personally, I would vote on number 1 in its place. That would be my recommendation to help move this commission forward.
One other can of worms could be is that we can ask John, I can ask John, but, instead of, it's big enough, make the area space, you could use 2 different banners instead of just one. Decide on one, you decide if we're gonna do number 1. I mean, the lettering might be different color, but that would be the other.
It could change the printing costs, so it would be dependent upon the contract that we have with the company, I would assume.
Eric, I have found a logo from John. I am going to forward it to you, so at least you have a document. It is a vector logo, but then it's also another type of logo as well. So if you give that to your designers, at least they'll have that logo, which has been sent to me by John.
So just so I know, are we saying that, okay, so we go to, what is number 6? We would try to make that font more similar to what John created? Is that what we're saying? And then with a black background,
Mhm.
and that's what we would end up with, and we would be in consensus on that. I mean, I'm fine with that. I just want to point out that at one point we had talked about the fact that that font wasn't as sort of immediately legible, but if everyone's still okay with, because I think obviously that's what the company was trying to do, was kind of create the same look and feel, but with a little bit more legibility in number 6.
Mhm.
So I just want to
Mhm.
bring that up, but I mean, I would be in agreement on that if we can just keep it black and simple. That would be, I mean,
I'm gonna just pause it back real quick to the color. Blue, did you mention, Rick, something about blue pops better in terms of single colors and?
No, I was just saying that like red and those fade very fast, but the blue and black will be great. I mean, your ones that down are still showing very well. I mean, those have been up for years, right?
Yeah, it is amazing. You see some that have faded. So it's interesting where there's tree cover and not, but that said, these are gonna replace in a year to 2 years, so we're fine.
Okay, what should we do?
Well, I mean, we have a proposal to go with number 6 with
Go
the
with
dark
number 6.
background, which we could integrate. We could ask John to give it a look and just get his
Yes.
input there if he thinks there's any tweaking or not. I don't know if that overly complicates the process because we only have a week.
Given your timetable and given that Alex has shared the vector graphics, do you have somebody on staff who could,
Put that
Play
together
with-
for you?
yeah?
No.
No, oh,
So-
okay.
No, so we don't have a designer on staff. They design it. I mean, I can send it to them with what John has sent. Depending on John's ability to get back, I don't even know if I can hear back from John in time to be able to get it turned around in production, so. But we'll make our efforts at it, so.
Yeah, just tell him, and if he can, he can. That's,
And let me just ask, let me push a little bit here. We know that look. Is it because we know that look, we like that look? And I'm pushing against design functions here, right? We know it. So I want to make sure we're not falling into bias of what we know versus what we don't. That's what I'm getting at. So,
Not only do we know that, and hopefully people would recognize that, but it's unique.
Mhm.
And again, it is artistic and none of the other fonts,
Right.
to me at least, suggest creativity whatsoever.
right.
And they're
I-
very standard, and this at
Mhm.
least, it flows, it's got movement, and I think,
Yep,
I mean,
agree.
personally,
These banners last 1 year?
so these
2
are 1
years?
year, so.
1 year. So we could, in the meantime, put out a request for local Webster Groves artists or people with connections to our community to give us a new font, and then in another year, present that font to this group.
Yeah.
So we stick with what we know
right.
and we believe to be more artistic. Ask them to move within that.
Yeah. This company really, in terms of its art and creativity, usually looks to communities to provide not a text where it says City of the Arts, a logo or a slogan, but it's saying, what is the art? You know, what is the mural image that's going to be on the background of the banner? And then, that's what they're usually seeing other communities do. So I don't say we're the oddball because we're not odd, but we're using it more for a slogan rather than for an image of art that may be elsewhere in the community. So, but yes, I'm happy we'll go down that road. So. It's helpful.
So the motion that I recommend, and we don't know if we agree because we need to vote on it, but if this makes sense, is using, was it number 6? And so with a black background, using our existing text adjusted to fit within that framework. If that is not something that they can do for any, or that's the motion that we approve a banner like that, number 6, black background with our existing text.
I second that.
Let me just ask a clarifying question. So this is really on your behalf more than anything else. They have changed, what they did to try and look like it now is white. If they come back and say we can make it look more like what we have existing, but it's going to be white, what's the conversation then?
The link, you mean
Yeah,
lettering.
I'm assuming when you say use the current City of the Arts, that you want the colors, right?
The variegated. Mhm.
I'm just trying to get contingency, so if they come back and say, oh, no, we'll do that sort of, but not with that color scheme, what's the?
I would say not, I would say the colors are actually not important, but actually the font style is the important piece. So the email that I just forwarded to Eric here actually has different font colors than this rainbow what have you font. So I can't open the vector file on my phone, but I assume this logo was designed to be able to have that type of fluidity, but I'm making an assumption.
I would say if it's white lettering on a black background, that would look good. Oh, and look at that. City of the
There you go.
Arts, City of the
See?
Arts.
Here we go, working in lifetime. And you can even see he's got the of and the, he's kind of got it to where it does fit.
Where did we get this?
He sent it to me, I don't know, a year ago. When we were talking about City of the Arts branding, and I said, send me the logo. So I have this logo.
Yeah, I like. the
Yeah,
feel.
yeah, it's
I
great.
feel like that's.
But I agree that even if it was white.
I think that's, I think it's very beautiful.
So does the motion need to change at all before we vote on it? Are we good? Okay.
So we're gonna use the background, you want to still only, consulting John? Or no?
I will reach out to Tom. I will.
Okay.
I guarantee you, I will. We'll reach out, make sure.
Okay. Okay, so the motion would be to approve number 6.
Number 6 with a black background
Edits,
and edit using the existing City of the Arts text.
yes.
What's that? On style, yes.
With the same font style.
Second. Aye.
Sculpture Garden signs, Madam Chair, I just entered to make sure there was no other questions. Signs are ordered. Had them here. I didn't know if there was any further updates since I'm catching up from Jenny that you all needed from me. All right, that's it. Good that run. Yep. And D, I put a catch-all here because I didn't have anyone say they needed anything on the agenda, but if there's any other updates or issues that people needed to provide.
You'd think after a period of time, I would know this. Comp plan is underway with the Lakota group, so please be on the lookout for that. They will come visit this commission, as well as several others, and there'll be lots of opportunities for input in all sorts of different ways, and we'll try and keep you informed on that. My only other update is today's election day. If you haven't voted yet, just walk right across the street and get that done. And if you have any questions on anything on the ballot, I'm happy to answer them. That's it for me. Oh, no, of course, I thought of one other thing. Excuse me, as part of the budget planning process this time, we are having every board and commission, when they ask for their budget, tell us a little bit about what they're doing and what their plans are for the next year. So if you have any interest at all in what sort of the other commissions are doing, then that is scheduled, I believe, for May 13th, 15th. And we're going to do it at the library just to make it a little less formal and make people a little more comfortable in their sharing.
So Jan, that was my update, is that this board needs to send its annual report in at this commission, which I think you should have gotten from Katie Nakazono an email about a month ago. You're looking at me like you may not have, so I will resend. And I'll send it out to all of you. There's an annual plan. It's really what the mayor's talking about is what's your plan for the year? What have you gotten done? What have you worked on? And how does this budget that you're asking for, the budget that I sent out that we discussed last time, help accomplish your plan for the year ahead. So it's all in text. It's a very simple report to fill out, but someone will need to fill it out because it's due May 2nd before our next meeting.
So maybe Jan and Janice and I can sit down and we can work on a draft. It's due to the city May 2nd. We can send it in, but then at the May meeting, we can also review it. I am sure that there will be time, or at least verbally, we can make any edits or any other points of emphasis. So we'll set up a meeting and make sure we have that forum.
Second.